balance is, I think, at the core what is most important. So if you think of the logos, if you are in line with the logos, then you are in balance, or you are as close to in balance as you can be. To create that balance and to uh, achieve logos.
So one of the things is that in some sense, relationship is one of the absolute fundamentals, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then the charge, or at one point you used the word the turbulence between
Mm-hmm.
the two. That also seems to be a very key thing to me as I look at how things work, that turbulence is what creates the, somebody told me once that in a field where there are two microclimates, because little microclimates can take place even across one span of Earth, where there are two microclimates, it's the edge between those two microclimates where all of the diversification takes place in those fields. You find many more species of, bacteria and insects and small animals and everything that are along the edge in between those two microclimates, because it's where that turbulence takes place, or where that's the creative edge that goes between everything, the turbulence, the suffering, the anomalies that come into our lives, right? All of that is that edge between, right?
Yes,
So the
absolutely.
relationship, and I like the idea that charge is a way to describe that in physics, because I've been thinking about this at all the different levels. When I get down to physics, it's harder for me to picture it. I know it's true. Like for me, one of the fundamental things that comes up is boundaries or edges, the boundary or the edge, or another way to think of a boundary as a limitation or a constraint. That's really important. It's necessary for creativity, because if you don't have a limit, if you don't have an edge, then everything just dissipates outwards, right? So um and this morning I ran into this really interesting thing as I was reading the scriptures. One of my favorite verses is, he has drawn the boundary lines for us in pleasant places. And that popped up when I was doing a study of another word that actually meant measurement. I thought, whoa, the boundary is the same thing as the measuring line.
Yeah.
When that verse says the boundary is drawn for me in pleasant places, that word boundary is the same as measuring line. So I've been correlating all of these things around measurement because of the measurement problem in physics. And measurement lines up with judgment and discernment, and it lines up with even with the theory of observation that Wolfram is working on right now, the
The
observer.
measurement, yeah, the measurement problem and all of
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's just interesting how all these things line up at all the different levels. And when you get a head full of that, it's really hard to try to talk to people because there's so many things jammed in there that come out all at once.